polygon on primitive, what I found out is to use this triangular 2D first to create a Delaunay triangulation. Then this will create a convex geometry out of all those points. And what I need to do next is to delete the additional triangles being created, which is not on the original polygon shape. So to do that, I am going to use the primitive wrangle for each of the faces together with this on the second input, the original polygon to the second input, and check the minimum distance between the center of the polygon to the original polygon. And if distance is 0, if this distance is close to 0, then that means the triangle is on the original polygon. If it's not, then the triangle is outside this polygon. Then that for those polygons you can delete. So do another calculation for the distance, xyz dist at p, and if the distance is small, bigger than 0.001, meaning if it's not equal to 0, then remove prim 0 prim num 1. Okay, now I can use the divide node to delete those edges inside with this option, remove shared edges. Okay, and this will create what I wanted. Okay, that looks good. And what else? That's pretty much enough, and connect it to this feedback loop. Alright, and I think I'm missing here because since this is a feedback loop, I need to merge this one with the rest of the primitive, which is coming from this node output, second output for the split. So let's check this out. Yeah, that was it. So combine these with merge node. We don't really care about the direction of the normal because we're going to convert it into line later, so it doesn't really matter about the direction. Okay, now we have created this irregular shape, and by increasing the iterations we can have more of these irregular shape by adding the adjacent primitives. And then we can convert this into lines using this one right here to create more irregular shape. Right, now I think having this iteration as a parameter is also a good idea, so let's have that. Let's name this combine iteration. Okay, it's with L shape, and diagonal shape might be interesting. Yeah, maybe having diagonal shape might also be interesting. Let's try that next if I have time. Alright, so for the combined iteration, I'm gonna set as 0 to 10. Should be enough. So let's copy this one to right here. So if you want to only use squares, you can keep the combined iteration to 0, but if you raise this up, you can have more irregular shapes. And together with the seed value, you'll be able to create several different shapes. Now if you want to avoid creating this kind of like pier-like shape, but only want to have a L shape like these, you can have more conditions inside here when you are checking for the adjacent primitives, but I'm not gonna go through that. You can, if you want to do that, just try going here and do it. Change the conditions right here. Okay, now what else I could do? Now let's check what kind of geometry we will create using this setup. Like in this case, we have this kind of shape here. Now let's also change some parameters here. I think I can also copy a seed and use it somewhere inside this loops. What was this doing? Okay, this was deleting the triangle, so del try. And for the check, this what's this? Okay, let's promote this parameter seed here, and let's paste seed here. Okay, so we can create a bunch of irregular shape, more than square. So let's try with this kind of setup to see what kind of output we could get using a wave function collapse. So by using this one, we have now more L-shape like squares being created. And if we show this up as a 3D, maybe showing it as a white first, looks more like it. Yeah, I like it. Oh, this might be too small, but that's fine. Okay, so it does what I wanted. Let's also change some parameters. If I change the seed, also changes pattern. Now this creates a more like stair-like shape. Okay. Now what if we change this to something more different? Go back to this one, the guide, the initial grid, and let's say the minimum size is 3.6. Now it gives you a bit more interesting shapes like these, and let's see what kind of shapes we get out of this one. And as a result, you get something more massive, more longer dungeon-like building. It's a bit hard to see with the background dark. Alright, well, that's also interesting, and the animation still works. So after this, it's a matter of playing with the parameters, what kind of output you like, and you can test out by creating a bunch of initial procedural sample grid which has been created in this process, and then feed it into a wave function collapse node to create a bigger scaled grid. Interesting, isn't it? Now I might want to keep this to 2.6 or something, and then have more L shape. Maybe keep it to L8, and then change the seed. Alright, and as you go. Alright, like it, I like it. Now if you want to have more bigger size for the output, you can go back to this WFC initialize one, which has connected to the first input of this to the wave function, and let's say if you want to have 100 by 100, just set this 100 by 100 and recalculate it, which will create the bigger grid using the same sampling rule. Alright, looks good, isn't it? And if you zoom it up and play it, you'll have something that I have shown you as an animation. Now maybe I can remove this disable lighting toggle to make everything lit up, black and white. Alright, now let me also try with the diagonal shape if I could do it. Well, it's still in a, you still need to express it with the grid, so even though it looks diagonal, it will going to be something more like a how do I say, the stair-like shape. To make these things really diagonal, I think it's a good idea to use other colors. I mean, you can use more than black and white colors, but you can use many more colors for the calculations, for the wave function calculations. So for each colors, you can, let's say the red is right bottom direction corner, or for the blue bottom left to top right corner direction, and so on. And so use those, each of the different colors with different purposes might also make sense. I'm gonna get into that but because it's going, I think it's going to take more time. But if you do have some that kind of informations, then you'll be able to have the final outputs as a diagonal with the real diagonal geometry. The other way you could think of is to, if you have this kind of black and white layout and you see that there's the corner information has some different information, like this one has 3 whites on the left bottom, this one has the 3 whites on the right bottom corner, this one only has black on the neighbors, and so on. So based on those states, you can replace the geometry what you want to place by using WFC, what was it? Wang tile decoder. Okay, so by using Wang divide decoder, you can set, or you can apply a new attributes to each of the point based on the relationship with the neighborhood. If you look at the geometry spreadsheet for the points, you'll be able to see a new attributes being created. Which is I'm not seeing it. Is it, or is it for the primitive? Nope. Ah, okay. Needed to touch this one. Now the name has changed from 0 to 255, which determines the neighboring relationship between the points, and you can use those values together with a Wang tile sample to place a already defined stash of geometries to replace the point with the stashed geometries. So if you look at this Wang sample tile, this is just a sample which which has bunch of geometries, and if you align it, it looks like these. And each of the attributes, each of the primitive has a attribute called name, I think. Primitive. Nope. Was it? Let me. Okay. I thought. Okay. So if you go to the primitive attribute, there is a attribute called name for each primitive, and this name corresponds to the name attribute for this Wang tile stick order. So you can use copy to point node using the using a piece attributes using name. You can place these geometries, which doesn't really look correct, does it? Oops. Okay, I guess that is because of the because of the alignment of the grid, I guess. Because I have made this grid procedurally, maybe the point number for the grid must be something different than the original one being created right here. So we'll look at the point numbers for the grid. Let's see where the 0 starts from. It's too big. Let's make it 50 by 50 again. 50 by 50 or 40 by 40. And the 0 starts at the right bottom corner right here. And if I look at the grid, if I look at the one that I have created procedurally, no, it does seems the same, does it? Doesn't it? Okay, well, I don't see any problems here. I just didn't copy this node and the right position somehow. What if I use this one? No, it still doesn't. Alright, not sure why. Maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Source group type, primitive. Nope. Points. Nope. Pack and instance. Oops. Not really sure. Maybe I should use the pack with the name. Oops. And transfer attributes name. Well, forget about it. I don't really use this for this example. Okay, well, let me try with the diagonal shape now. What I can do is going back to right here for the first one where I was splitting the grid, and just change a few of the code for the divide. And the place where I can change is this W. Okay, so by changing so this is the second corner, this is the first corner, and for the maybe for the second corner, let's try by adding by like 0.1. You'll be able to have a bunch of diagonal curve like these. Okay, now let's test this out together with a merge node, which creates really irregular shape, and the final grid looks like these. Now, since if you want to have a diagonal shape, you might want to have more resolutions. Currently this is pretty low res, so as a result you get something really not wanted, something like these. Yeah, you might need more resolutions when you have a diagonal shape. So having tons of diagonal shape doesn't really make sense, so let's set some limitation. So let's say there's some random values. Is there a seed for this? Okay, so if rand and if rand eta1 multiplied by eta2 multiplied by some constant value plus seed is less than 0.1, then add or update dw by 0.1 or 0.2. Well, what was the minimum? We have to also look at the minimum value, which is this one right here. So this has to be a bit smaller, so let's say 0.5. Okay, so some of the line became curved or diagonalized, and some of the curve being straight. Doesn't really look good though. Let's say 0.05. Well, still. If I change the seed. Okay. And going in. Well, because it's pretty low res, it converted into really square grid. Now if I have set this to 30, and now if I have more bigger size, start to have this kind of shape now. Okay, maybe I might want to have more diagonals. Let's parameterize this as well for this threshold. Okay, let's see with these. Now looks a bit better than the last one, but still not that good, is it? Maybe I should keep it as 0. Okay, so it's pretty much all what I wanted to show, and I have spent like 3 hours and a half. Sorry for that. If there's anybody still watching. Alright, well, it's time to, well, let me give me some time to make all these parameters that I created stored inside this controller, and I'll finish this. So first of all, I think I have stored all those parameters. Okay, this one was to change the minimum or maximum edge length. So let's give it somewhere here, and min edge or ed point pos. Keep it to 0 to 1. Let's set it to 0.2 and copy this parameter. Go back here and paste it right here. Okay, now going back to here. What was the parameter I could change? I think I have all these parameters being stored. Okay, these are good. Okay, I think I can also control the iterations of this one, but I mean, this iteration doesn't really matter because it stops if you couldn't find any like bigger lengths to divide. So keeping as high value is fine, I guess. This one as well. So let's just keep it as 10. And for the initial grid, that's also good. Yes, Happy New Year. This is, yeah, December 31st, so we are ready to celebrate the year in 24 hours, at least for me. Yes, some of you lives in different time scale, so you might have a new year later or earlier, probably. For this one, okay, I can set the size of the grid as well. Let's keep this to a default value like 2.5. And which this looks a bit too small, isn't it? Let's keep this to 3 or 4. And let it 2.6 or 7. Yeah, this looks better. Okay, now the final, yeah, I could parameterize these as well, I guess. So, and I can also parameterize this one as well, just in case. So let's go and let's make a separator so that I know that I'm updating the functions or parameters for the wave function collapse. The first one is the output grid size. Well, more output size you have, the calculation becomes slower for sure, but let's keep it 100 as a maximum. And then the sampling number, so sample num. The minimum, let's set the minimum to 2 and the maximum to 4. Okay, and for the output grid, start with the 50. I mean, you could also make it like rectangular shape, I guess. Didn't try that out. Let me try this. And for this sampling, 3 is default. So So keep it as 3. Now open this up. And, oops, now it seems to create a bit more to stair-like shape. Let's see why. And that is probably there was 2 big squares right here. Maybe I needed to split more of these in order to make it more to have more smaller grid. Or you can update the sampling number to 4, which will sample the larger part of the initial grid to make it more, to preserve more original shape. Yeah, looks good, but the building is a bit too big. So I'm gonna keep it to 3 and set the minimum list length size to 2.3, which creates, well, let's keep it 2.5. That looks good, isn't it? Okay, so I like this default this settings currently. Now what if I change the size for the columns? Does the shape also changes? That it does seem so. Okay, seems like if I change the either side of the width or rows, it also changes the pattern. Not sure why. What if I change the point from 0.6? Right. Might be because I might need to okay, wait a minute. It might need to be that the ratio of the width and the columns and the rows might need to be related to the source. That might be the reason. Is that so? I don't know. But it looks like it. Yeah. If I set it to 1 by 2, this one seems to work. This way seems to work. But if I increase the columns more and set the rows smaller, this starts to give you some weird result. Don't know why. Let's set it to just set it to square size, shall we? I guess is how it's being implemented using Python. If you look at this one, there's a Python node here, so I guess this is the one. This is the place where the side effects has implemented this algorithm. Okay, so in terms of the parameter, this is good. What else? Going into the later node, fuse, divide, sort, simplify. Okay, so those are parameters that I could change. Let's go open up the node control again. Another separator. Oops, not the label. Not the label. Okay, and going to simplify. Let's unlock for a bit linking parameters and then drag and drop these. Wait a minute, this seed can be coming from this one, I guess, but no. Since this seed also changes the output for the wave function parameter, we should differentiate this seed value because if I change this one, then the another calculation for the wave function collapse, another solver would run, so we need another seed value here. Let's name this C2. Set the range from 0 to 1000, or I could just drag and drop this one. Drag and drop this one, drag and drop this, simplify as well. The seed, set the seed, say to 0 to 1000. Now, what else? Extrusion. So I have this power. Extrusion power. HS, this is the window. Okay, well, I don't use this anymore, so let's ignore that. Min SC, so this is the minimum scale value for the window size, so min window scale. Okay, what else? Seed. Okay, for this seed I can just copy the one from here, so let's leave that for now. Max layer height. Okay, that's the value to determine the layer height differences for each building from 1 to this max layer, used as a multiplication value. So set the range from 1 to 2, that's fine. Okay, apply, accept. Going back to the null node, copy the seed value here, and then paste it right here. Okay, and going to the extrusion. Now, if you just want to show this as a shaded building, that might also is interesting, might be interesting. To do that, what's this? To do that, we can have additional code here. Well, first let me delete those HS and VS, which I don't use this anymore. And then I am doing this for each primitive. Okay, and for each point I can set some color related value or height related value. Where is the point creation? Search for add point. Okay, so this is the one, this is the position where I'm adding the point. So I can add a attribute to this point, like call, based on the height. So new pass dot y divided by the height was defined. Where was it? The new pass, the C pass. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, this right here. And using this H value. So the new pass divided by the maximum height is the one that I need, and H, that will be H multiplied by L. What's the maximum? LHS. Okay. Oops. At WPT. Oops. Still. So call set point attribute, call WPT end pause, new pause. Right now, if you just want to have a ambient occlusion shaded color, you can just update the point color using the ramp from attributes, using color. Oops, now I think I have some issues with those points here. I think I need to look back into the extrusion. There should be other code adding a point. Okay, so this one, so set point attribute, add the same color, call attribute to this npt npos dot w, npos dot y divided by h multiplied by lhs. Okay, now if I hide the wires, it will show you a clean shaded building, which also looks good based on the height. Now that was the side effect, and going back to the window, and there's another parameter you can set. One of the ratio, well, ratio is based on the time frame, so we don't really need to care about. For the minimum maximum, well, I guess it's okay with those constant values, so I guess I have just done transfer all the parameters that I need in order to create this set up. Okay, now finally I'm gonna make this dark and set the size for the output to 100 to make it big enough. Alright, now some of the building looks too high, so to reduce that I can go to this extrusion power and make this lower value, like 0.8, since this is based on the area of the building. Okay, well, maybe I could have another type. Create a seed, change the seed. Whoops, that's too much. That is too much. Now this is because I think it's because you have more diagonal shape. And now this one becomes 2 squared grid. Now that's not that interesting. Let's go back here and see what will be the best parameter to make an interesting shape together with the diagonals. I mean not the diagonal, but with the L shape or irregular shape. First of all, what about these? I guess if we want to keep those structures more, we should increase the sample rate as well. I don't want this kind of too long, too linear stuff, do we? So first of all, I'm going to raise up the number for the minimum rectangle length to like 2.7, then minimize the value for the combined iterations, raise up some, change some seed values, and then set the sample numbers to 4. I still see some small edges. Okay, now this looks good. Okay, so how does this go? Since I have changed the sample number to 4, the calculation time gets up longer, much longer. Now it doesn't look good. It doesn't look. What if I change this to 3? Does it still look? Well, no. Nope. Oof. 2.5. Looks too small to me. Yeah, it looks too small. So I should have more than 2 right here. This one looks good in terms of the oops. Okay, well, I do see a bit too rectangular shape here. Now let me also check this or allow rotation and see if this changes a bit. Okay, now it looks much irregular, but a bit better. But there's too many ladder-like shape. Let's change the sample to 4 again. Alright. Well, maybe. That's might be better. Okay. Looks too high, but I can reduce that by changing this power to 0.5. That's too low. 7.7. Yeah, that looks good enough. Okay. So as you can see, setting the balance, finding the good balance for the wave function collapse is a bit hard. But I guess, I mean, for me, it's the first time I'm using this node, this algorithm. So I think I'm gonna try this out a lot more for other usage. Okay, that looks good. Now finally, let me also have some additional value to this one and end this tutorial. I'm going to add some yellow light and the last, then I'm gonna finish this. So first of all, I'm going to create another random value based on point and some seed, maybe for seed for this one as well, and then loop between the white color and the yellow color, which is 110 with L, and that's it. More like a building now. Okay, that's it. What time is it? 1 a.m. So I have done like 4 hours. Sorry for being so long. This is the last algorithmic live for this year. I will plan to continue next year as well, at least until 50. This is the 42nd. And I haven't thought about if I do for the next week, since next week is the New Year's holiday. But let's see. So thank you for watching. If anybody's still here, and I am going to keep this as an archive, so you can go back to the same URL to check what I have done. And also I'm going to upload the HIP file for this one that I've just created and paste the URL to that file in the video description page so you can download it. But in order to use this file, you have to have a Houdini 18.5 because I'm using the new structure school dictionary, and as well as the side effects labs being updated to the latest to use the wave function collapse node. Okay, so that's one thing you have to be careful of. Alright, so thank you for watching, and if you also find this video interesting, and helpful for other videos, I have also started the Patreon myself, so it will be great if you could support me on that as well. If you feel like it, you can go to that Patreon page from the video description page as well. Okay, so good night everybody, and I hope you have Happy New Year to everybody, and hope you have a great year next year. Okay, good night, and see.
Hello, welcome to the August 16th, 2022 Club Cubase live stream. I'm going to do a quick audio test and then we will begin. Bear with me just for a moment. Hello, welcome to the August 16th, 2022. All right, my name is Greg Undo. I'm the host of the live stream today. If you have not attended a Club Cubase live stream, how it works is you can submit questions in advance to clubcubase@steinberg.de, or simply ask your question in the live chat field. We'll try to get through all the questions in order, chronologically, and as we work with this, realize that I will not be able to keep up in real time with the questions. So if you don't see an immediate response to your question, if we could refrain from asking the same question repeatedly, that would be appreciated. And when asking questions, if you could specify which version of Cubase that you're using, also which level. So if you have Cubase LE, AI, Elements, Artist, or Pro, if you're running version 10, 11, or 12, that information is helpful, as well as which operating system. If you're running on Mac or PC, that information is helpful. And we should have all of the topics covered in the live stream today, posted and pinned to the top with timestamps with all of the topics, so you could refer to that. But if you wanted to search for topics that have been covered in previous live streams, you could go to cubaseindex.com, and Jan from Stockholm has been kind enough to set that website up. We want to give special thanks. We had two people, just community members, they're not Steinberg employees, that serve as moderators. So we have Agent K and Jazz Dude. We'll give special thanks to them. Another wonderful resource of information for Steinberg that's very valuable to the community is the Cubase Nation Discord. So you make sure you check that out, and Jazz Dude does a lot of work with that. So as I mentioned before, my name is Greg Undo. I am the host for the live stream. I work for Yamaha Corporation of America, which is the United States distributor for Steinberg products. And I'm based in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. And if you're watching the live stream live, make sure that you go ahead and please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, and we will go ahead and begin. All right, so we have a question from the Cube. Will there be new presets in new version of Cubase, as well as what are the new logical editor presets in Cubase Pro 12? Just downloaded it, thanks. All right, so let's say we want to look at, there's a lot of new presets that have been created. So let's say we go to our MIDI logical editor. One of the things that you could see immediately is there are user presets, but you could also just go through a number of factory presets. So we could just get a sense for all of the different presets that are available. So there are kind of a lot of new presets that were made available. And if you wanted to create user presets, you could also exchange them much easier just by clicking when we go to the preset area. Then you go to the bottom, you can click on Show User Presets folder. And at this point, it could just take you directly to your logical editor presets. All right, so we have you see a question. Hi, Greg. I'm having recurring issues and hard crashes pertaining to NVIDIA graphics drivers in Cubase 11 Pro. I'm just wondering if Cubase 12 addresses any of these issues. So I think a lot of it would be similar between the two different programs. So, you know, I think that if you have kind of a bad graphics driver, and sometimes rolling back or just kind of rolling, I think NVIDIA actually has a DAW mode, like a DAW mode, that you could use as a preset. But, you know, a lot of times all the advanced gaming features, so if you have the option of just dealing with, you know, a more basic set, that often will give you better compatibility. So, and if you don't necessarily need all of the gaming features, you could utilize that. And if you wanted to test to see how it worked in Cubase 12 versus Cubase 11, you could always download the trial version and give that a shot. So we see Jazz Dudes just mentioned he's running Cubase 12 with the NVIDIA 1650 Ti without any issues. All right, and we see Jan from Stockholm for CubaseIndex.com on the live stream, as well as John Costigan from Kenosha, Wisconsin. And we have Benny checking in from Sweden. Glad he can make it. And also Stefan from Sweden. All right, Robbie Bowling from Dallas. All right, and we have Daniel checking in from Munich. Okay, I guess Jazz Dude's a video card. Now that I read it out, is a GTX 1650 Ti. All right, so we have Chris Hallam has relocated from Columbia, South Carolina to Athens, Georgia. Glad you can make it, Chris, to our live stream today. All right, and great to see Nick from the UK on. Okay, Nick says we have 40 people watching and only 18 likes, so he wants people to whack the like button. All right. All right, and we have Quatrain Entertainment from Quatrain Space City. So thanks for joining us today. We had the artist known as Love checking in from New York. All right, so we have just a question. Hey, Greg, just a quick reminder about the warp tool with musical events followed difference. Still don't understand, thanks. All right, so we'll go ahead and do that ahead of my list for later, but let's go ahead and take care of it right now. Okay, so the question that we had, and this is kind of carryover from last week, was what's the difference between our warp tool and warp grid with musical events. All right, so let's say I have a MIDI part right here that's set to musical time base, and we have audio events here. So you can see it probably more clearly with the MIDI data, but let's go ahead and so we have our audio loop here, so we'll just go ahead and listen to it. All right, so what I want to do is first we have our audio events set to musical mode, as well as our MIDI. The track is set to musical mode, and our MIDI track is set to musical mode. So now when we go to Warp Grid and I move my measures, we can see that the audio is going to play back kind of at the same speed, and the MIDI, as the tempo is adjusted here, so my MIDI is playing kind of at the same exact speed. We see that the audio has sped up and slowed down. But now, when we switch this mode to Warp Grid with musical mode, with musical events follow, now as I adjust, both the MIDI and audio will just stretch to play back at the new tempo like so. So now when I change the tempo, both the audio and MIDI will speed up and slow down and match whatever designations we made from the warp editing. But if I just put this into standard warp, you can see that the MIDI is going to be the same. The audio will change the speed to match the tempo changes. So now we could just have both events automatically just follow the warping when it's done with the warping tool, follows with the musical events follow mode activated. So let me know if that helps. All right. Okay, so we see a question from Greg Busby or Busby. My stereo template VST plugin manager shows 21 instances of Mix Convert V6, but the plugin info screen at the bottom does not list where any of those instances are. How do I close these? Okay, so let's see if I create, I will just create a surround output bus here. So I'm going to go to my studio menu and we'll go to the audio connections. And I'm going to create just a 5.1 bus. Okay, and I'll make this my main mix bus here. So now if I go to these particular audio events, let's say if I have my stereo track, okay, so as we come over here, let's take a look at all right, so sorry, my chat field just all right, so it could be that all right, so let's see if we have any instances when I go to my VST plugin manager here. All right, so I think now that I have like these tracks going to, it's going to be perhaps part of the panner here. So let's say if I switch these particular tracks, and let's say if I switch this from a 5.1 out to a stereo, All right, so let's see if and it might be kind of showing up, in the control room as well. So let's say if we come to our down mix preset, so it may be showing up there, but I think it could be, if you could let me know if you have how many channels that you have surround panning on. So let's say if I now we'll come over here and go to our audio connections, and let's say if I get rid of this particular bus, and we'll make this our main out. We'll see if that affects your so it still shows 6, and let's see if I do a new project. So it could be maybe if you're doing surround sound or if you're utilizing the control room. So let's see if I turn off the control room. So I know it's often used for the down mix presets, but if you could let us know, and I'll just check here again if we haven't. Yeah, so it could be a number of them are added in the control room. So when I activate the control room, we'll see that for each of the different effects. So when I come over to the control room, and this could be like utilizing the down mix presets here, uses the mix convert functionality. So let's say if we go directly to our VST plugin manager, we'll see now that the control rooms have been activated. If we now go to our mix convert, that we'll see 6. So I think that's going to be used in the control room. But if you have like outputs that are going to surround, I think it might get loaded as part of the surround panner so that you could do down mixing. I see it says your stereo template, but maybe you have groups that are set up in quad or something like that as well. All right, so we have a question. Having a bit of trouble getting the vocals softer. It's a bit too hard and straight on, so to speak. Do you have any tips on what I can do? Cubase 12 Pro, Windows 10. So if you have vocals are too soft, compression is always a good thing. Rolling off, if you can't get them softer, let me just open up something with vocals so we can take a look at some softening. And one that you might want to use and check out, we'll try it on this. I'm not sure if it'll work. I haven't tried it in this case, but maybe an envelope shaper. So let's say we have.
What did you say? You wished.
So I want to make these vocals softer. So, maybe the first thing I might do is just subtractive EQ. rolling off a lot of high end. Let's say if you want kind of that presence, but still softer. It's not kind of doing what I thought I was hoping for, but you know, try just also just a, you know, standard compressor. So let's say if I just wanted to go directly to dynamics and go to the compressor here. So without that, and then you can kind of make it softer there. And without that,